I ought to just use my phone. This camera is having too many difficulties to be convenient. But to get back to parallel universes, so I've kind of described how dimensions sort of form how consciousness perceives reality. But in this dimension at least, going to the idea of multiverses, to this collection of parallel universes that is infinite in expanse and being, just as consciousness is infinite. The way I usually think about it is, imagine that each individual moment, sort of, if you took a freeze frame in time, a snapshot of the universe as it is now, that is just one universe. Alright, and to sort of bring more words into this so that you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. One universe is one example within the multiverse. The totality of all multiverses put together, to borrow a term from Marvel, would be the omniverse. Omniverse meaning all for omni, and it might be a little bit of a stretch, but not really, ways for verse. Because the Latin word, actually don't know what the infinitive of it is, but in the verb form, which is where the adjectival form is sort of derived from, vert and vers are part of the word for turning or a way. Going back to the idea of universes and multiverses and whatnot. Imagine a snapshot in time, going back to the idea that every material thing within the world is just one bit of this energy ocean where its properties make it behave in a specific way, thus giving the illusion that it is a certain type of thing and not just another blob of energy. If you take a snapshot of the universe with that perspective, one sort of freeze frame of everything all together is one universe. And a slight shift in that orientation, which can be a shift in motion. Now all of a sudden everything has a different energetic relation, especially to me, because now my energetic relation to everything else is different. And so, piggybacking on that idea of energetic relations and states of energy, each moment is an individual state of energy, and each individual state of energy can be thought of as a particular universe. Because time, not that it's not as if it is completely unreal, in the same sense that, like, the word time isn't real. Because words are abstractions that we've created to describe and define our experiences. So the words themselves, they're literally just arbitrary sounds thrown together that we say have meaning, because if they didn't, then we'd literally just be out here like, ah, ah. But right, time itself is not an abstraction that we've created for the purpose of communication. It's an abstraction within our perception, kind of like how our ego and our thoughts and identity is an abstraction within our perception. Because these sort of constructs, they only behave in specific ways. You know, that's why their properties are very consistent. However, time can't really nail down time, can you? You know, your perception of time just sort of flows as you perceive it. We can talk about whether or not it's linear or cyclical all day, but essentially, time is a progression of states. You know, one time is not another time because changes happen between times. And if you catch my drift, then that means that, in a sense, time can be thought of as just the understanding and perception of movement, of literal shifts in energy. So anytime one universe, one freeze frame, shifts to another universe, another orientation of energy within the multiverse, and one probabilistic reality comes into being in the now, that is what we refer to as time. So, time is constantly running, right? We're all here perceiving time. You know, this video has a specific length. Our lives are measured in years, hopefully. Sorry. But, you know, in our experience, we have a spatio-temporal experience. So that means the first two things we're immediately aware of are space and the progression of shifts in space. So what does this mean about all of those meditations that shift you into parallel universes? What are quantum mechanics? Are those just like super sudden and random changes that just happen in the universe because it's possible and because, well, yeah, I mean, it's just possible. It's going to happen at some point, right? Going back to the double slit experiment, there are two interesting theories about multiverse that I want to reference here. One of which sort of describes that the universe, as time is progressing, so as the shifts are taking place, scans the nearest probable futures and basically selects the most probable one to become real. And that is how we get our experience. The other theory is that everything happens and there are an infinite number of happenings. Like there are also an infinite number of worlds exactly like this one where you did or did not watch this video, and an infinite number of worlds where afterwards you did and did not rewatch it. Basically describing or relating the infiniteness of consciousness and metaphysics to the infiniteness of physics further, which is kind of the theory that I like better, because in this way nothing is left undone, and it kind of gets to that objective infiniteness from which there is no objective meaning, there is only the experience of everything even further. If everything happens because everything can happen, when you think about Murphy's Law, if it's possible, it will happen. People like to put that in a negative frame, but honestly, it doesn't need that negative connotation. Because think about it. If we're consciousness literally creating reality as we want to perceive it, even though we may be doing it collectively, that doesn't mean that individually it happens. Who says there's only one Earth? Who says there's only one happening of this? If space is truly infinite, then that means if you get to that side of the universe, would you just come through on the other side, but in a new parallel universe So basically, say you're in like universe 12, you get all the way to the edge, on this furthest side, and then you go one more step, and all of a sudden you're all the way on the opposite side in universe 13. Pretty much exactly the same, except one thing is different. Just one thing. Now imagine how many things are possible to be different. In other words, how many things can change in a single moment to make a difference between one universe and another. And the role that consciousness plays in that, as far as will and intent goes. Because the nature of the reality we are in is the same as our own nature. It is constant change, constant flux, and constant shifts of different states and orientations of being. The only difference is, on some level, and I like to say that level is consciousness, there's an element of seemingly random, chaotic freedom that is so perfectly structured and ordered that everything is completely inexplainable, other than the fact that it is whatever it actually is. Its physical properties and its metaphysical properties are reflections of each other. So when you add consciousness to it, and consciousness creates all of this, and we have consciousness, you begin to think, it's not just that we have consciousness, we are consciousness manifested into a physical form with which to partake and participate in even more freedom of expression. Because, if you look at these objects around me, they're solid, stable objects. It can only be one way. If you look at plants are kind of the same, where they have a specific way of being. They don't express much in the same way that we think of expression. But if you look at flowers and all the different kinds of flowers, all of the different kinds of leaves, even the different kind of wood that trees can make, those are all unique expressions of the universe through this radical chaotic freedom that it can have. What happens when you give something a mind and allow it to at least believe that it makes choices and has some control over its own existence? Whether or not we're just waves in an ocean doesn't even matter on some level, because our conscious minds, our ego, is always looking to believe that it's in control. So what happens when you let something as radical and as chaotic as that into a world of perfectly ordered randomness and give it an infinite level of possibilities to explore? That is freedom. That is wild as hell. If you like more of these philosophically spiritual talks and kind of questions and contemplations, you can check out my website at aarontoteach.com, where I go a lot more in depth into sort of trying to answer seemingly impossible questions. And I go from everything from metaphysics to psychology to philosophy, spirituality, anything that could possibly relate to our experience. I'm looking to write about, I'm looking to learn about, I'm looking to see what we can understand and actually know, and to see what we can do with that kind of knowledge once we understand our position here and how to move forward. Because the thing is, regardless of whether or not we have control, the more tools we have to work with, the more we can do, right? And I like learning. I like hearing from other people what their ideas are. So I'm going to share my ideas with y'all. So check out my website if you want to see what my ideas are. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're having a nice time. Thanks you for watching. Thanks you for watching. Yes. Thanks.